Okay, so my primate was Sapajus Apella, the tufted capuchin, and they're pretty much the apes of the New World, and I think that'll come to light later. So getting into their taxonomy, which is super weird, in July 2020, the International Union for Conservation of Nature combined species Apella, Macrocephalus, K, Libidinosus, and Flavius into one widespread lineage. They maintained three subspecies for conservation purposes, and this comes after a recent split of the genus Cebus into two genera, Cebus and Sapajus, gracile and robust capuchins. And this is because capuchins have a really high degree of variation in the structure of their DNA, which results in super crazy phenotypic differences even in a single population. So all of these individuals are considered Sapajus and can interbreed with each other and produce viable offspring and have been recorded doing so. Um, Getting into their anatomy and morphology, they have prehensile tails like a lot of New World monkeys, but unlike attalids, they lack the tactile pad. Adults typically weigh in between 5 and 8 pounds, but males will be slightly larger than females, and that's the only way they're sexually dimorphic. They share a lot of traits that are more consistent with apes and humans than with other monkeys. They have a large brain to body ratio, and the same areas of their brain are enlarged that are in apes and humans. And they have reduced small intestine size relative to their large intestines, which suggests reliance on higher quality foods. They have robust skulls with more bony ridges for muscles to latch to, which suggests a diet of hard to chew foods, but also gives them access to a wider range of food. They are extremely tactile with their hands, and they are known to use tools and use it to process food. They're one of the only primates besides humans who have individual control of each finger, even when compared with great apes. They're much more dexterous and have a higher control of their hands. Um, Getting into the geographic distribution, they can be found throughout the Amazon basin in Brazil, Bolivia, French Guiana, Peru, Suriname, and Venezuela. They're highly adaptable and can be found across a wide variety of habitats, including deciduous, evergreen, mangrove, beach, and savanna forest types. And they're resilient, even in human disturbed forests, and have been found living in small patches of logged or hunted forests. They prefer the middle and lower canopy levels where they maneuver expertly with their prehensile tails. And there's also a high availability of fruits there, but they will often travel down to the floor for ground foraging. The life history, so they're socially and physically dependent on adults for a considerable period of time, up to 2 years. And this is because infants take a lot of time to learn a lot of the skills associated with being a capuchin, social behaviors, foraging, moving through the canopy. And during puberty, some individuals will undergo a color change, but this varies between populations and even between individuals in populations. And individuals in captivity have been recorded to living over 40 years, but there still needs to be some research on the wild individuals. Okay, getting into their home range and day range. So their home ranges vary, like everything else does. It's highly variable. Typically large, but they have been known to be found in pretty small areas. They're sympatric with other primate species and are rarely the only primates living in the forest. Their day ranges vary depending on the season. During the wet season, food is more abundant, so they travel less. And then during the dry season, they will travel considerable lengths to reach water and food, and they'll also exploit a smaller range of food. Um, Activity patterns, so they're diurnal and they sleep in trees at night. Um, Sapajus Flavius, has been shown to follow a more crepuscular lifestyle, but is for the most part diurnal. They spend most of their time foraging and then followed by traveling and resting, and the movements are dictated by the alpha male. And their activity patterns will vary depending on the season. During the wet season, their traveling time will decrease and rest time will increase. And then during the dry season, obviously traveling time will increase and feeding time will decrease slightly. Positional behaviors. So like I said, they have prehensile tails like a lot of other platyrrhines, and they're arboreal quadrupeds, and they're very good at maneuvering through the lower and middle canopies, but they will frequently travel to the ground for foraging. When they do this, they display bipedalism when they're holding stuff in their rocks, or holding stuff in their hands like sticks or rocks, and they use it to open nuts. And then usually when they do this, they're bracing themselves on their tail. Getting into their diet and foraging, they're generalist omnivores and they utilize a wide range of food sources. During the wet season, they eat more fruit and plant material, and then during the dry season, there's increased ground foraging and insectivory, and they engage in a lot of hunting, and they've even been recorded hunting titi monkey infants and eating them, which is really crazy. They have robust skulls, which allows them to exploit a wide range of food and chew really hard to eat foods. And in areas where there is agriculture, they've been known to raid the fields. Getting into the social organization, the group size and composition is highly variable. It averages around 18, but ranges from 17 to 22. There are always more females than male individuals, and females are philopatric, so they'll remain in the same natal group their whole lives. Males typically will leave the group around age 6 and will travel to multiple groups before ending up staying in one. They communicate through mainly olfaction and vocalizations. They urinate on themselves to attract mates, mark territory for surrounding groups, and reduce stress. And vocalizations, they have vocalizations for specific scenarios, including predator warning, a lost member, a found member, and aggression toward other Capuchins. And one interesting thing that I thought was cute was males, upon reuniting with one another, will embrace and vocalize loudly to reestablish bonds, which I thought was really cute. They are polygyandrous. They're both, which means both males and females will mate with multiple partners in the same season. Their social structure, so both sexes form linear dominance hierarchies, with an alpha male leading the group, and females will show preference for this alpha male in mating and grooming, and lower ranking males will typically be found on the periphery of the group. Females also form a dominance hierarchy, but the alpha female, among females, they do allo grooming, but its higher ranking individuals will groom lower ranking individuals. So the alpha female does the most grooming in the entire group, which is interesting. Mating is not exclusive to specific individuals. However, it has been recorded that individuals will show repeated preference for one another, and males will engage in sexual activity after fighting to reestablish bonds, which is not a common behavior. Getting into the mating systems, females are sexually mature around age 4 to 5, males around 7 to 8 years, and females are in estrus between 7 to 21 days, and there's no physical marker, only behavioral markers. The female will solicit males with aggressive behaviors, including throwing rocks and sticks, which the male will respond with aggressive behavior until he wants to mate and then reciprocates and mates. Flavius has been recorded doing a salsa dance with spins and fancy footwork, and they look over their shoulder and between legs, holding eye contact with each other. Females will show preference to alpha males, and the alpha male will father the majority of the infants, but females will solicit lower ranking males toward the end of their gestation period, and females only give birth to one baby per pregnancy. There's no set mating season, but it usually occurs between when there's an abundance of food, and gestation period is 120 to 180 days. And infants are reliant on their mothers for a long time. Getting into the predators, threats, and conservation status. So the natural predators include eagles, pumas, jaguars, snakes, coyotes, and crocodiles. They have vocalizations to warn about each of these predators, or predator warning. I'm not sure about individual predators, but they are indiscriminately afraid of birds. Every bird they will be afraid of. Their largest threat is humans. And habitat loss. In regions where they live that's not protected, there's active hunting because they're common food sources, and in areas where they're agriculture, they're labeled as pests and hunted for that. The illegal pet trade is huge with these guys. They're one of the most common primate pets internationally. Instagram and TikTok users, I see them a lot, and then obviously Justin Bieber. And then in these cases, mothers are usually killed and then the infants taken and sold. Most populations, luckily, are not threatened, and huge expanses of their territory in Brazil, Bolivia, and Colombia are conservation areas. However, Sapajus Apella Flavius is a major exception. There's only 180 to 1,000 individuals in 29 isolated populations, and they don't live in any protected areas, and all of their areas are losing habitat to coastal development, And in those areas, they're hunted for food and as pest control. And 46 of the population is tested positive for a parasitic worm that infects the bloodstream. So we got to pray for Sapajus flavius. He's on the struggle bus. But that's my presentation for the most part. They're super cool, and they are mostly okay, except for Flavius. We're praying for you. This is my bibliography. Went over the time, I'm sorry, but I can't re-record this because this took me 10 tries already. Thank you.